So first of all, we actually need to return these results instead of print them. So let's say return. And if you realized here, then this object, this is a search results objects, and then inside of this object we have a results field, and this results is a list of our actual results. So what we want to return is actually this list here, right? We don't really care about this whole object because this object contains more fields, such as the number found. So this is the number of recipes in the entire index that match the criteria that we put in the search query. So even if we are retrieving, for example, 12 recipes in our results page, we could find potentially thousands of recipes, but we're not going to show them all. So this number, or this field, is handy because we can actually see how many recipes we are matching in our entire index, and usually we only fetch maybe 10 to 12 results, just so that the page is easier to load on the user's side. So let's go ahead and actually return only the list of the results. So I'm going to go back here and say return results.results, because results is the name of the variable that we gave this entire object. Okay, so this entire object is called results, and we want to access the results field. So we say results.results. Okay, so let's just return that. And now let's say recipes is equal to all of this. So it's the list of recipes. And now we need to pass in these recipes into our template. So let's say TPL values, for example, for template values. Open up a dictionary and say recipes is equal or contains recipes. So the key recipes and the value is the list of recipes we have just retrieved. And here we need to pass in, so double asterisks and TPL values. Okay, so now let's go to our template and see how we can print this out. So templates, account, home. Okay, so after this button, we want to actually loop through all of the recipes we have retrieved and actually print them out onto the screen. So let's say curly brace %, for recipe in recipes. We need to end the for loop always, so I'm always going to do this beforehand so I don't forget. Okay, and now we can say ahref is equal to /recipe /recipe dot doc ID. Remember the doc ID, we stored the document ID as the ID of the recipe key. So in this way, we're going to be passing it into the URL of a recipe. So again, this is going to be a link, and the link is going to point to /recipe and the recipe ID. So in this way, we can design a request handler that it retrieves this recipe ID, and it builds the key so that you can use the key to get the recipe, so that we can then create our recipe page. Okay, and inside of here, so we're going to open up a div, class of call lg3, and here I'm going to say div class image container, img container. This is a custom class I wrote in order to make sure that the image is always occupying the entire space given any size of the screen. And inside of this image container, we are actually going to place the image for our recipe. So img src for source, and here we need to pass in the URL, the serving URL of the image. Okay, so remember we got this serving URL, so photo URL, and we passed it into the document. Well, now we're going to be using it. So let's say recipe.photo URL. Now you'll see that the way the search API returns the result is a bit strange, because what we need to do here, this will return a list, so recipe.photo URL or recipe.any given field we have indexed will return a list, okay? And it's kind of weird because this list only contains one value. So we have to index into this list into the first value. So this will be the index 0. And this will return the object which we need to call the value to actually extract the value of this field. So it's a bit weird, but what I'll do is actually I will print out this so you actually see what I'm saying. So I'll say photorecipe.photo URL. I'll print it out so that we see what's actually happening and we see why we need to do all of this. And this will be the same for any given field we have indexed. So you know, it will be the same. So if we print out recipe.title, for example, it'll be exactly the same. So we'll just see how this works. Okay, we can close the IMG. Next, we can open up another div after the first one and say class account snippet. Okay, this is another class I have made before for the title of the recipe. So let's open up a p tag and say the same recipe dot title, then index into the first element, so the index 0 dot value. Okay, so I believe this should be working. So let's just go back and run this. Well, I have a bug here. Instead of end block, this should be end 4. Sorry about that. I'll rerun this. Okay, good. And we see here. So this is what I was talking about. See, we have printed the recipe.photo URL, and this returns a list. You see it's opening up a list, and inside of this list we have a search.text field, and we have a name of photo URL, and the value is the actual URL that we want to retrieve. And they're doing this because we could actually return multiple elements per field, but we're not going to be doing that, so we just need to index into the first element always. So let's go back and delete this print and see how this looks. Okay, and last thing we need to do is we need to move this entire for loop inside of the div class row. So let's do it after the A and make sure everything is indented properly. Okay, so now this should be on the same row. Okay, good. Okay, great. So we are now retrieving results from our search index and we're displaying the images. So this is all looking very nice.